Well, I think it's always important to stress at the beginning that translations are very good. And especially if you read a couple of them of two different kinds, you're doing really well. If you're reading like a CSB and an NIV, I mean, I wouldn't read an ESV and an CSB. They're too similar. But if you pick ones that are different, so one camp would be NASB, ESV, CSB, and the other would be the NIV. You're doing pretty well. It's not like you can't know what's going on. Bruce Walke says, all major translations will lead you to the cross and none will lead you to heresy. So I think it's always important to stress that up front. That's for lay people. The problem is that when you stand up in front of people, as a pastor, your job is to be a herald of the king. And a herald had two responsibilities. A herald had to be clear, and a herald had to be faithful to the message of the king. And that's your job description as a preacher. You're supposed to be clearly stating what the king has told you to say, the king meaning the Lord, of course. And so it's really hard to do that if you don't know what the king said. Now, even with my caveat, there's some stuff that's lost. There's discussions that you can't get into if you don't know Greek. There's a lot of things like that we can talk about. But I wanted to have done my homework so that without hesitation, I, as a herald of the king, could stand up and say, "Thus saith the Lord." Didn't mean I didn't make mistakes. There were Sundays I had to come back and went, that point I made, I didn't quite get it right, and let me fix it. And I mean, nothing wrong with that. But you have to be with confidence. Now, if you're the kind of, I don't want to call him a preacher, but if you're the kind of person who stands up front and shares his own ideas and is there just to, get a hoop and holler and get people going, and it doesn't matter. But if you understand that as a preacher, you are a herald of the king and you have to be faithful to his message, then you have to know that message as well as you possibly can. And that's where Greek and Hebrew come in.